Good evening, everyone. So, this is our last debate for the day at 8 p.m., and this is the debate for the position of School of Engineering male and female representatives. Here with me, I have the OBs Lim Su Wen and Lo Jia Chuen, who are currently School of Engineering students, and the candidates today are from Lideransia, Brian Nee and Darilyn Lam. Just a bit of a self introduction. My name is Sean Pan. I'm the returning officer of this year's annual elections. Along with me, I also have my deputy returning officer, Alethea Goh. She is, however, at the back behind the scenes working on maintaining the stream. Just a few audience reminders. Please keep your comments respectful, no hate speech, nothing unprofessional, etc. Now, let's talk about the agenda just so that everyone is clear about how today's debate will be run. So first we have the introduction, which will be done by the Election Commission, which is what I'm doing now. After I'm done presenting the agenda, we will move on to the opening statements by Brian and Darlene, and that will be when they talk about their manifestos and basically give us an overall good first impression. There are no other candidates today, so we will skip the Q&A or cross-examination by candidates and move straight to Q&A by office bearers, which are Suwan and JQ here. And then after that, we will move on to the Q&A by the audience. Do remember that you can actually drop any questions you have for Darilyn and Brian in the comments below in the YouTube live, and we will get to them in this period of time. I will present your questions to them and give them a chance to answer your question, perhaps clarifying their manifesto or perhaps giving them a chance to sort of just introduce themselves even better than they did. And then moving on from Q&A by audience, we will finally close with the closing statements by the candidates, where Daryl and Brian will give us any last words or anything they want us to remember about them. And we will finally close the debate with a closing by EC. With that, I would like to move on to the opening statement by Daryl and Brian. Daryl and Brian, the floor is yours. Wowers.
All right, thanks, John. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Ying. I'm a Malaysian student in the School of Engineering, specializing in software engineering. I have been involved in various reputable clubs in SOE, namely MUSA SOE and Monash University Malaysia Engineering Club, during which I've gained a lot of experience in areas such as event planning, event logistics, risk management, etc. These experiences are the stepping stones for me to take up this position. I wish to take this role because I am passionate about growing the current SOE community into a tight-knit community. We wish to lay the foundations and pave the way for the return of physical events for our future successes in this post-COVID period. I believe that Darylyn and I can influence the students in SOE community to support and grow closer towards one another. I will pass the next part of this introduction section to Darylyn.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. My name is Darilyn Lam. I'm also a Malaysian student from the School of Engineering, currently studying my second year, first semester of mechanical engineering. I've had experience in teaching and training others in a professional setting, program coordinating, working with teams of people for regular weekly occurring large events for students, and organizing youth camps. All this experience I've gained from working with several organizations and companies, from which I have grown to become a natural leader and a great team player. I believe I can contribute a great deal as an SOE representative by utilizing my perspective on being on the receiving end as a student here at Monash, as I strive for building better and closer relationships between students and better organizing of events laid out for SOE students. By working with Brian, I have the confidence that we'll be able to bring about good changes to the SOE community and have a good influence on not just our own team, but others around us. Our goal is to carry on what was effective from the past and work on improving programs and events that will bring about new issues and also bring about new initiatives for the better. We are both friendly people, open and humble individuals who just want to make a good difference to SOE from the small things to bigger things.
All right, we'll now move on to the manifesto part. So the core foundation of our manifesto is about growing a tight-knit community in SOE here at Monash. There are several proposals that we have planned out in detail, and we'll go after them one by one, as well as the reasoning behind. Just a note to everyone, the following manifesto points were drafted after surveying a total of 89 SOE students, and the most common feedback was more interaction within their cohort. Without further ado, let's dive right into our points. First off is that we plan to improve on the programs that the current representatives are already doing. These are initiatives such as the Year Representative and the Hello Buddies program. I, as a Year Representative, realized that the Year Representative program has so much more potential to influence the SOE students of their particular year. We plan to have mingle sessions between the Year Representatives and the students in their respective discipline. It is an initiative that will allow the students to get a personal connection with students from the same discipline and year. And at the same time, this also allows SOE year representatives to understand the unit problems firsthand.
Next up is the sense of belonging for female engineering students. As you may know, the engineering field itself, as of now, is still a highly male-dominated field, not just in the corporate world, but also here in Monash. From my personal experience, when I began my experience here in Monash, it was difficult to meet other female students and create lasting friendships with them. Within my batch itself, in my general year, the number of female students was approximately 20% of the total. One of the biggest aims, our biggest aims, is to improve the sense of belonging among SOE female students. We plan to do this by involving certain aspects of the Hello Buddies program to connect female students from different years and organizing other events and activities in collaboration with the Monash Women's Engineers Club. We will hold mingle sessions such as an Engineering Ladies' Night, where all SOE female students are invited to join and continue on initiatives such as talks or workshops to empower them, such as Inspiring Change, Women in STEM, or other such themes. This can serve as a building block for them to have a safe female community in SOE. These events are aimed to not just empower them in the field, but to also nurture a closer relationship amongst them in conversation or fun activities, and meeting female students from within their specialization and others. We also aim to provide an avenue for Year 1 students to learn and to get help in deciding for their discipline and specialization for those students who may have difficulty choosing before they enter their second year. We plan to do this by either involving the Hello Buddies program or making it an entire separate program or event conducted by the year representatives, where Year 1 students are invited to watch and listen to their seniors from each specialization talk about and give their glimpse of what their student life in Monash is like, and a little bit of their technical content that they will need to cover and learn should they choose that specialization. This will serve as a guide and activity to help Year 1 students to understand each specialization better from other students' first-hand experience in Monash, from a space that is outside of the content that they are learning in their general year.
The following point is engagement with companies. We plan to execute this through the collaboration with other engineering clubs or other schools. By working together, this means that the School of Engineering is able to increase the quantity and, most importantly, the quality of the events. From personal experience from events such as the Career Fair, which was recently held for engineering students, I realized that most of the problems are caused by an overwhelming load on the club committee due to lack of manpower. This really puts a mental toll on the committee, which in turn reduces the quantity as well as quality of the events. Therefore, we foresee that increased collaboration is the perfect tool that can be used to improve the students' experience.
Okay,
The last
sorry,
point
Brian
is-
and Marilyn. Actually, you have exceeded your 5 minutes, but thank you for your very concise and understandable manifesto presentation. So from now on, I think we can move on from the opening statements to the Q&A by the office bearers. With that, I will pass the mic over to JQ and Suwen. You may ask Darlene and Brian anything you have.
All right, thanks, Sean. So, to Darren and Brian, so based on the current structure that the 2022 School of Engineering Office Bearers and the Engineering Committee has implemented, can you please identify like the cracks in the system regarding in terms of representing the School of Engineering Committee, and also how your manifesto actually worked to fill in these gaps? Yeah, and you should note that you can exclude the year reps section since this will be a separate question later on. Okay.
Okay, so could you repeat your question?
Okay, so based on the current structure that the 2022 School of Engineering Office Bearers and the Engineering Committee has implemented, can you help us identify like the cracks in the system in terms of representing the School of Engineering Committee, excluding the year reps, since this would be a separate question later on, and how your manifesto would work in filling these gaps?
Okay, so one of the crack that I can think of right now is right now the students are not MUSA actually is not so transparent towards the progress of improvement on the units. So as a student myself, I feel like most people can also relate that we sometimes don't realize the progress that of the improvement that are made on units, such as those units that receive a lot of complaints. So what I plan to do, or what we plan to do, is to propose a follow-up system for that will update students on the progress of the units so that they can see a gradual improvement in the units. And this will also allow lecturers to gauge their improvement progress.
Follow up to the question, because in terms of transparency, what I would like to say is we do provide some follow-ups. It may not be constant, that I may admit, but it also falls on the students to read what we have sent into the WhatsApp group. So how would you make sure that students actually read what you send? Yeah, that's my question.
So what we would do is only to send out the important information that are urgent or those really important ones to the students, so that they won't see the messages as a spam, but rather update on an important update that they will see. And yeah.
It is also not a guarantee that all students will be able to follow up with every message, but it is as long as we are doing our part in providing that resource for them, that they know where to look for it. Yeah.
Right. Next, ask the next question. Yeah, since you answered Suan's question already. You mentioned predictive processes in the election guide, right, to mitigate problems such as the lack of extra lab sessions and the lack of lab resources, in which I'm pretty sure most of the SOC students will relate to. However, you did not mention in the election guide on the exact structure of the process. So can you elaborate more on this?
Okay, so for the process, we plan to use the year representatives to update us on the problems that they already they will know because they are taking the units personally. So they'll be the ones updating us whether there's problems or whether there's a certain lab equipments that are lacking, or just problems in general. So they will update them to us as well as to the lecturers, so that the lecturers can prepare those equipments before the class even goes on. So this can avoid the problem entirely.
Yeah, just to add on to that, since we are also planning to improve the year rep program in a way that we will expose the year reps to have a closer connection with the students. So we will encourage the students to give more feedback to the year reps in real time, so that we'll be able to get the feedback faster. And this way is also part of our predictive process. Yeah.
Okay. Sue?
Okay, I will ask the next question. Yeah. So the subcommittee, or what we call the engineering committee, will actually form the backbone of how we basically potentially operates usually. Okay, and also tentatively it will be how you will potentially operate next year as well. Okay, with your committee's help. And what are the benefits for your committee joining your team? And how would you ensure a good working environment along with merit-driven practices?
Sorry, can you repeat your last question? Sorry, your last phrase, because I wasn't able to hear clearly.
Okay, so basically, if people do join in to become part of your committee, what are the benefits for your committee joining your team, basically? And how would you ensure a good working environment along with merit-driven practices?
Marriage practices. Okay. So from my experience, I had professional training in teaching others and also training in leadership. So I believe that both me and Brian, we have enough experience to be able to lead a team well in a way that it will be healthy, not just in pushing for results or just for the events or the planning, but we will walk alongside them every step of the way. So there will be a guide in a way, but we also trust them in the sense that they are capable enough and responsible to carry out their roles. So we won't want to form a team that is based on pressure or stress, but in a way that it is encouraging and also supportive in them, so that they can learn from that kind of experience. Because we also believe that every step of the way it is also Ankara in Paro, we're always still learning, so we don't expect them to be perfect, but we want to create a very supportive and encouraging environment.
And to add on to that, I believe that the experience that they will get is the most attractive factor to get them to join as a subcommittee. So the experience such as event hosting or planning events or even planning the logistics behind those events are the important skills or important experience that we will put to use in the actual workplace. So we plan to train them on that so that they will be experienced enough when they get to the workforce, for example.
All right. Let's hope.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Let's hope if you get elected, you guys will have a good subcom like what me and Sue have. Okay. Next question. Right. This is in response to the agenda of empowering female engineers in School of Engineering. All right. Not to say anything, but from my perspective, right, holding events may not be sufficient, as we all know, due to the low participation rate. Not sure how true it may hold for next year, but that is the case for the past 3 years, even though we are in physical right now. However, from what we know, the faculty is looking into this issue and is trying to mitigate it with the introduction of scholarships for female students. So the faculty is in fact actively trying to mitigate this issue. So how would you work together with the faculty to increase the engagement of female students in SOE?
In terms of working together with the faculty, you said that aside from the events that we will hold.
Yes. What kind of long-term initiatives would you pull out instead of just events? Because as you guys would agree, events is just one shot, right? It's not really a long-term ongoing process. So from my perspective, for this kind of for this kind of process that involves well-being, a long-term process might be a better way of handling it. So what kind of long-term initiatives would you bring out in order to empower female engineers, and how would you work together with the faculty in order to in order to fulfill this agenda?
Okay. So from my personal experience, I believe that female connection or with friends also is very important, especially at the beginning of the semester. So not just looking for long term, but also just how you begin affects the long term as well. So when I began in my journey in Monash, then it was just hard or difficult to meet other female students. So we can tackle this by, since we're resuming back to physical classes and on campus, we can actively engage with them during orientation or even through the Hello Buddies program. So again, it might be an event, but it is also our very great resource on reaching out and affecting these long-term connections. So what we can do is that we can target this towards just the female students. In their first year when they join, then they'll be able to meet all sorts of female students from within their specialization or even just within the same year. Or that's why we also plan for the Hello Buddies program for them to team up or to meet their seniors who are also females who are doing perhaps the same specialization. So in doing that, there will be a follow-up with the Hello Buddies. The seniors will be able to guide them along the way. That way, it can also guide them with the long-term connection. Yeah.
Okay, you did mention. Sorry, JQ. So
Sorry.
you wanna go first? Okay. So you did mention about collaborating with MWE, I believe. Am I correct? Just now for this type of events. So can you perhaps elaborate a bit more on how are you going to collaborate with the faculty instead to increase engagement of female students instead of like clubs and yeah.
As of now, we have not thought up a very structured plan on how we will engage with the faculty in terms of tackling this problem. But it is definitely something that we can look into, and we are also open to receive suggestions in how to improve this aspect of it. Yeah. But thank you so much for that. It is definitely an important point for us to also include not just the involvement of the club, but also the faculty. And thank you also for the information on that they might also increase scholarships for female students just for joining engineering. So in using that knowledge, we will definitely be able to think of something that will include that. Yeah.
Okay, with that question answered. Next question. Seeing as Brian is one of our year representatives, I would like Brian, this is targeted towards Brian since it's the year rep. Please identify the cracks in the newly structured year representatives program and how you would improve and strengthen next year's year rep program as the school representative.
All right. So
Please explain in detail. Since you have 20 minutes, please explain in detail.
okay, sure. So the current cracks in the system is one of which is the feedback system, and the other one will be the role as a year representative. So because the role of the year representative is just for now, it's just collecting the feedback and maybe joining a few events, volunteering in a few events. So we plan to expand on that to include to expand the role for the year representatives to include activities such as guiding year one students through showing them what the technical content that they will learn in their first or even in their second or third year, as well as we plan to also use the year representative program as a way to get to make the SOE community closer towards each other. So this can be done by having mingle sessions between the students and their respective year representative. So for example, each discipline, mechanical, be it mechanical, software, or even chemical, and for each particular year, they will have a year representative that they will, that year representative will be responsible for holding mingle sessions with students from their year, and this will be a sort of a small group so that students can also get to know the year representative. On the other hand, the year representative can also get the first-hand experience or first-hand feedback from the students about units or about anything in general.
Okay. Soon?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Darlene. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not a year representative myself, but one of the great things that I realized as a huge gap in the current year rep program is that as the receiving end of, like, as a third party, I'm not part of any MUSA committees, but I realized that I cannot identify who is my year rep, even though there has been maybe a post on social media, but has been no connection or any mingle sessions for us to meet with them, even though they are actively probably planning or part of other committees and programs, but there has been no constant interaction with us as the year students. So I think that's what we can improve on through the Mingle session. Then we'll be able to expose them more to their year students, so that they will know, the students will know just who to reach out to if they have any feedback or problems.
Okay. Well, just to let you guys know, the current PRO and me myself are trying to increase the physical presence of the Europe. So hopefully, maybe it will take off next year, right? Sue, maybe the next question.
Okay, just maybe a slightly simpler question. Since we are on the topic of year reps, can you actually explain to me the difference between year representative and also the School of Engineering committee? Are you all aware of the difference and the way we operate? Yeah.
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 So maybe I can explain on that. So from my understanding, the subcommittees of engineering, SOE, MUSA, is responsible for organizing events or even planning the logistics behind certain events such as farm engineering or other volunteering events. On the other hand, your representatives are more towards academic, where they collect the feedback or we collect feedback about units or advise students on what they are supposed to do when they have any issues or problems with the school, for example. And yeah, that's the scope of the year representative. So what we actually plan to do is to expand on that. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yeah. So School of Engineering committee, basically they help out a lot in ensuring the workflow of the entire committee, as well as, like I mentioned, Ken, our PRO, he will actually help us coordinate the year reps. Okay, so that is also what some of the School of Engineering committee would do. So each of them will have their own specific job scope. So it's not just organizing events, I would say. It's much more than that. Organizing events, it will just come as a very small part of it, because we do want them to have a lot of experience, and organizing events includes as a part of the experience itself. Okay, and for your representative, I'm sure that perhaps you all have already clear on it, where you are actually part of the SSLC committee and would collect feedbacks and also discuss the feedbacks from the students with the course directors or the course coordinators. Okay, right. So let me ask my next question. So the current office bearers, basically me and JQ and the engineering committee, work super closely with the School of Engineering EMO, Education Management Office, DHOS, and course directors and course coordinators to ensure the academic well-being of the School of Engineering committee. So can you please identify the cracks you foresee in the academic system and how your manifesto would fill those gaps?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry, Susan.
Okay, you can hear me, right? So
Yeah.
the current office parents and engineering committee, we work very closely with the School of Engineering Education Management Office, the EMO, DHOS, and course directors and course coordinators to ensure the academic well-being of the School of Engineering committee. So can you please help us identify the cracks you foresee in the academic system and how your manifesto would fill those gaps?
Okay, so one of the cracks that I can think of is, as I mentioned, the feedback, the follow-up system, where maybe some of the feedback hasn't been followed up or hasn't been, follow up by the school representative. So what we can think of is to maybe implement a system where we will get their follow up or updates from them maybe 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, so that we ensure that there's progress made, and this also ensures that there's no barrier of communication between the EMO and also us. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. You mentioned about continuing our legacy, if any. This is just for us to make sure that you have done your research properly, lah. Please identify two of our trademark events.
Okay, so the first will be the functioning. Second one will be the EMC, which is the engineering maths competition. And the third one will be the water balloon challenge, water balloon competition, which is just started by you guys
Okay.
this year.
Really sure. Okay. So- okay, this is just for me to make sure that you've done your research, lah, but still.
Okay, sure.
Sue?
Okay, so my next question would be, how would you increase the participation of engineering students in engineering clubs or events organized by them, or promote opportunities / experiences to be working within a club? So basically to help students bump up their CV, I would say.
Okay. So one of the things that we have probably come up with is we plan to work very closely with our publicity officer in terms of utilizing our social media platform. So this is where we plan to create highlights of the kinds of events that we hold, probably some footages or some reviews from students who have attended those events to give a glimpse of what happened, and maybe even reviews or feedback from the committees themselves who have participated in planning for those events, what they have gone through, their good experiences, or even bad. But it is to showcase to the students what they can expect in participating for those events or even planning for them. So we can utilize this platform in kind of in a way publicizing those roles so that students will be more interested in them. Because some of the students maybe they have fear of joining those positions in fear that they might not be able to take it up and also balance it out with their academic life. So in having more engagement with them and laying out the responsibilities and job scope, they'll be able to have more of a visualization of what to expect. And from there, they'll be able to plan properly, probably even engage more with the people who themselves who have been involved with it. Yeah.
Okay. One more question from my side. Okay, so one of our EngCom 2022's vision, right, was to increase connection, not increase, but to stimulate connections with our Clayton counterparts. Not sure if you guys have researched on it, but if you guys did, props to you guys. But our Clayton counterparts is actually called Monash Engineering Student Society, or MAS for short. We actually had one sharing session with them during 26th April last semester. Not sure if you guys pumped up on it. My question for this will be, how would you maintain or continue on this connection with our Clayton counterparts since we only initiated it this year? How would you ensure that this goes on for next year? And what kind of events would you plan in order to maintain this connection?
Okay, so to to answer that question, we haven't actually planned out on how we are going to engage with the Australian counterpart yet. But what we plan to do is to use the framework that's already laid out by JQ and Suan, to use that as a template for us to follow and host the event or host the live stream on YouTube, for example.
This is also part of what we probably lay out as our legacy, that we also really look up to the kind of initiatives that both of you have also started. So we also would like to carry on, but definitely it would require us to undergo a lot of training and also learning from how or your motives on why you started connecting with the Clayton counterparts. Yeah.
So what we would do is to work on the framework that's already been in place and try to improve maybe the interaction between the MES and MUSA SOE so that we have a tighter connection in that way.
Yeah, let me see from our question bank.
Okay, so
Soon you were saying. Sorry.
yeah, so let me ask another question. So you remember JQ's question on our trademark events, and the answer partially correct. From engineering and EMC is indeed our trademark events, and so can you please help elaborate on like some of the potential improvements that could be implemented in this like trademark events, perhaps?
Okay, so as a volunteer myself in farm engineering, I realized that the games were not that well planned. So what we plan to do is to plan ahead or plan in advance of the games that we'll be having, and also have the brainstorm session in advance so that we'll have a buffer time that we can maybe work on the things that are missed out or that are not in place yet. So that's for farm engineering, and also I realized that the logistics in the farm engineering event wasn't that smooth. So what we plan to do is to maybe have a dry run before a complete dry run before the actual event. So it will be the volunteers simulating the actual event themselves and playing the games themselves before the participants actually play them. In that way, we can predict the problems that will be coming up, or foresee any issues regarding maybe injuries or any sort of this thing. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Okay. Since you have not much time, let me ask one last question. Okay, so enough about continuing old traditional stuff. What new ideas for events do you have in mind in order to improve the School of Engineering experience for students?
All right, so the new event will be the mingle session between the year representative and the students, because this hasn't been held before, because it was COVID period and everything went online. So what we plan to do is have a mingle session between the year representative and the students, and it can be an informal event, or even talk about anything in general, maybe units, something about the academic, or just anything in general. So in this way, the students will get a personal connection with your representative. So this is the new initiative that we are coming up with.
Another new initiative, which I have also brought it up before, is when we plan to collaborate with the Women Engineers Club, then we would like to hold such things like Ladies Engineers Night, where like all engineer students female engineer students are invited to join. So it's not just for those within the club, but all those everyone in the whole school will be able to come.
Right. Give me a second. Sean, I think that's all from my side. Suan, do you have any more?
No, that's all from my side as well. Thanks.
Thank you so much, OBs, for your questions. I think that was a very eventful question and answer session, to be very honest. You're lucky, Brian and Darlene, to have so many questions to answer. Anyway, we can move on from the Q&A session with the OBs to the part that I think many of us in the comment section has been waiting for. The Q&A by the students. I'm very glad to say that there are many questions that are being answered in the comment section. Alethea, do you think you can spotlight one of them? All right. So this question is from Benjamin Tan. Another question from my side. If you are elected, how many subcommittees are you planning to get in School of Engineering? And if you could, can you elaborate how you will delegate?
All right. So to answer that question, because the MUSA regulation changes from time to time, we cannot say for sure how many subcommittees that we are planning to recruit. But what we are good, but what we can do is to explain on how we are going to delegate the task. So the task will be delegated evenly throughout the entire subcommittee team, and it will be based on what their personal capabilities are. So if it's in their strong suits, maybe they will be taking up more of the particular task. But on the other hand, if they're not so expert in some areas, we will delegate the task to other subcommittees. So we are also we also trust them, as in we'll be monitoring how they will work on their task, but we won't be micromanaging, as in constantly asking them to suit our needs and such. So this will be the way that we will be delegating.
Just to add on to that, before we know for sure how the MUSA guidelines are changed for how many subcommittee members we are able to recruit, we have an estimate that we will be able to know, which is about 10 or more, which is about 3 members who will be organizing events. So there'll be head of internal events, external, and also industry engagement. Then there's also public relations and welfare officer. Then we'll have the usual, secretary, treasurer, publicity, and design. But we plan to work very closely with our subcommittee members, and so therefore we'll also guide them and give them good training before the events take place, and so on.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
the question.
Darlene and Ryan. Okay, let's move on to another question. This one is from Rashwan. He asks, how do you plan to keep your subcommittee members and year reps motivated throughout your entire term?
In terms of keeping them motivated, I'm not really sure what you mean by that in terms of if they feel discouraged throughout their semester in terms of academic-wise, or because they feel pressure from their role. It can be very subjective, but maybe I'll narrow it down to our scope of what we can handle, which is maybe if they feel pressures or stress from managing their role. So what we plan to do is, as we said, we plan to have a very encouraging and supportive environment for our team. So in a way that they won't feel too much stress or demotivated in doing their work, their role, if they are not able to carry it out. We are very open-minded in the sense that it's not that we will compromise, but we are willing to work with them closely and see what is the best way for them to carry out the role, at the same time carrying out the best results for that event. So in a way, we will be just encouraging them and being supportive. We don't want to work on pressure and stress. Stress is good, but we plan on having the good kind of stress. So yes, that kind of motivation, I believe, is very good. Yeah.
Thank you, Darlene and Brian. That was a very concise answer. I think we can move on to the next question. Okay, this one is also from Rashwan. He asks, since you spoke about more exposure to career opportunities in your manifesto, and a lot of other schools also included a career-related point, what do you think are the important steps you could take to collaborate successfully and bring out an engaging event?
Okay, so one of the things that I can probably think of, which is definitely a most important step in terms of collaborating with our maybe subcommittees or even the people who will be planning for those events, is definitely communication is very key in all of this. As long as we have that constant updates and accountability towards each role, we believe that we'll be able to carry on the event successfully. We'll be able to identify the kinds of issues that may arise even before they may occur during the event, or even if they were, then we will be able to adapt to it as a team to mitigate this kind of risk before it turns into a larger problem. So I believe that, yes, definitely one of the most important steps is communication. Yeah. The other thing is, as we have said, we will undergo training with them beforehand. Yeah. You have anything?
Yep. Another thing to add on is also, other than communication, is also being proactive. I think that's also a very important personality to to ensure that the event is successful. So it could be like being proactive in terms of messaging the other clubs or the other subcommittee teammates about their progress on certain tasks or whether they need help on different tasks. So that's also a very important point. So because it ensures that all parts of the events are well thought of and there's no missing parts that are not covered.
That's all.
Thank you, Darylyn and Brian. Let's also move on to another question. This one is also from Benjamin Tan. He asks a question on publicity side. Do you guys have a marketing strategy on that sense on large scale and medium scale events?
So the marketing strategy, as Darylyn said, is somewhat like behind the scenes to showcase to students what is actually involved inside the planning, and this will get the students hyped up about the event, and it makes them feel attracted to join the event, and because they know what's being given or what maybe the food is, what kind of food is given or what type of activities are carried out during the event.
Thank you, Brian. Let's move on to another question as well. Okay. Chi Min Hao asks, as you may know, the School of Engineering and the School of IT has had a strong connection established this year with the aim to provide tech-based events for students. Given that next year's School of IT representative will be an interim, how would you make sure that this connection can be well maintained?
Could you go back to the first part of the question? Thank you.
Okay, let me reiterate the question. Min Hao asks, as you know, School of Engineering and School of IT has had a strong connection established this year with the aim to provide tech-based events for students. So given that next year's School of IT representative is an interim, how would you make sure that this connection between the School of Engineering and School of IT will be well maintained?
We believe that even if the next year's School of IT rep will be an interim, whoever they will be, we believe that we will still be able to work as closely with them as before. It shouldn't pose as such a big of a problem because we believe that we have to maintain a close communication with them in order to maintain this kind of connection. We ourselves are very open-minded people, and we are friendly, so we'll be able to work well together with this person who will be able, in order to maintain this connection. Do you have anything?
Yeah, another thing is, as Beverly mentioned, is communication. So with communication, we can, even though the person is whoever she or he is, could have different ideas or different manifesto points that he or she wants to implement. I believe that with communication, we can work out a strategy or a different or cater the event towards their need. So it will be a win-win benefit, win-win situation for both the School of Engineering as well as School of IT.
Thank you, Brian and Darylyn. Thank you for answering the question. Let's move on from Min Hao's question to another one. Okay, so Agil asks, with a probable budget cut this year, how do you plan on tackling this issue?
So with that budget cut, it wouldn't pose such a big problem to our manifesto, because what we propose is mingle session, which doesn't cost a lot to carry out. So mingle session, we probably could have a few, the budget for that will be probably very low, because we just need the food and the event to carry out. So with that, we don't think that it will pose a big issue towards our manifesto.
On that note, because this budget cut hasn't been confirmed, but it might be probable that there could be possibilities of us probably using or utilizing certain events for fundraising to support SOE events, or even such as charity fundraising as well. So we can tackle this budget cut by encouraging the students to support these initiatives.
Thank you, Darylyn and Brian. We also have another question. Alethea? Okay. So, Minhao also asks again, if given a scenario where students' demands do not align with what management wants, how would you make sure that both sides accept your initiatives proposed for both parties? This is also provided that engineering has 7 disciplines.
Could you go back to the previous part of the question? Thank you.
Okay. If given a scenario where students' demands do not align with what management wants, how do you propose an initiative that is proposed for both parties?
All right, so maybe I can answer this. So what we can do is to make sure that both, to understand the motivations or the reasoning behind or the benefits that both parties are looking for. So with that, we can work out and compromise with each other, so that it will be a win-win situation for both sides. So for example, the student is looking for maybe unit improvement, and the school side is looking for lesser complaints towards on units. So what we can do is work out a compromise between the two parties and make sure that their needs and their wants are addressed.
Also, just to add on to that note, these kind of situations where students' demands do not align with what the management wants, but be very subjective according to case to case basis. So we'll have to tackle them on according to what the situation calls for, or yes, exactly like what the students' motives actually are, and whether they are actually healthy in that sense. So if they are not, then we would have to communicate with that student and try to find a compromise, so that that student also gets something that is healthy and helps them maybe in their academic wise or their welfare.
Thank you, Darylyn and Brian. Let's also move on to another question. Okay, so Chi Min Hao asks again, following up on communication, passive leaders are often a common case to be seen. How would you make sure that the initiative goes on without creating any form of bias amongst the leaders?
Passive leader. Okay, so from experience, from me and Brian, we have been very active in our past in terms of our experiences in getting involved with teams, organizations, and event organizing, all sorts of kind of events or team. That we believe that we are not, in a sense, passive leaders, but we are very active in the sense of our initiatives and what we want to see actually change and take place. In a sense of, so we believe that from the start, we would like to encourage that kind of perspective of being open to us in terms of if people are disagreeable with our what the actions that we do, or how we are carrying out our role, or how we plan for events, we are open to people discussing with us in terms of what they find can be done better or differently, we will work on improving our actions and also improving our initiatives, so that it also benefits not just them but the whole of the SOE community. So we believe that we will be quite active leaders in that sense. So, yes.
Thank you, Darlene. There are no new questions, but there are a few questions from before. So Benjamin Tan asks an extra follow-up question regarding subcommittees. What if your subcom is slacking and is slow in progress in work? What are your action steps?
Just because we plan to have a very encouraging and supportive environment, it does not mean that we are not firm people, in the sense that we want to see good results also take place. So when just the same way that we deal with students or people that we work with in our teams, maybe in our projects or units that we took before, for students who probably were slacking behind in their progress, we talk to them first. We make sure that they are in a good position in terms of why is it that they're slacking, why is it that their progress is slow. Probably it could be personal issues or their academic life that they cannot balance properly. So we will first tackle on by communicating with them what is their issue first. Then from there we'll be able to work on. But in the case that if that person or that subcom is not able to continue on their role properly, then we will look for other alternatives in order to continue on, make sure that our vision is still in line and still able to take place, even with or without this person. Yes. Thank you so much for the question.
Very eloquently put, Darlene. We also have another question from Benjamin Tan. This one's a new one. Given how School of Engineering is a very competitive faculty with a lot of engineering clubs and teams, as well as an umbrella club, MUMEC, if the ideas collide, what are your next steps?
So if the ideas collide, what we plan to do is to have collaboration within the other clubs. So with that collaboration, we believe that it will solve a lot of conflict of interest, because both parties will be working towards the same goal, towards the same plan, and both parties will be wanting to see the event succeed. So collaboration is a really good tool for us to use, because we can also enhance the MUSA SOE presence in the School of Engineering, as well as also use our platform to publicize for the other different clubs, such as MUMAC, IMAC, etc.
Thank you. I think that was a very nicely put answer. Do we have any other questions from the floor, Alethea? I guess not. Okay. Yeah, this is one that was asked way before. So, Agil asks a question for later, which is now. You guys mentioned about empowering female engineers. How are your initiatives different from the current MWE?
So as I have mentioned before, that since we plan to collaborate with the Monash Women's Engineers Club, it does not mean that our initiatives have to be different from them, because we are working towards the same vision, towards the same goal, which is, of course, connecting the female engineer students and empowering them. So we can utilize that collaboration with the club in the sense that we can hold bigger events for the School of Engineers women's students, or also hold talks or workshops where we can also invite special speakers from outside with large and prior knowledge in the field, that they'll be able to empower the female engineers. So it does not mean that we have to have different initiatives from the club. We can simply collaborate with them because we have the same vision and the same goal. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. There are also no new questions, so I think we can give the audience 1 minute, and if within the minute there are no new questions, we can move on from the Q&A by students to your closing statements. Okay. We have one by Vincent Lai. So Vincent asks, How would you describe the top 3 goals as representative of School of Engineering?
All right, so the top 3 goals. So the first goal is to create a tight-knit community of SOE as a whole. And the second will be collaboration within different clubs and, collaboration within different engineering clubs or even different schools. And the last will be to enhance or increase the presence of MUSA SOE in the School of Engineering.
Thank you, Brian. We also have one more question by Blind Bamboo Stick. So he asks, you've spoken about how you will empower the female engineers, but what about the remaining school body? What would you do to improve their school life?
So we have also spoken about our year representative program, which I hope that you have been hearing in our earlier part of our debate. We have spoken how we will encourage our year representative program our year representatives within the school and engineers to connect more with the students within their year and also their specialization. So we will hold bingo sessions for them so that we take into account not just the welfare of course, the various engineers, but the whole entire student body in that sense. So you want to explain?
Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Darylyn, and thank you, Brian. Now I think it's time for us to close the floor to the students to ask questions. And without further ado, I will let you guys leave with your last words and any closing statements you have.
All right. Thank you, everyone, students, office bearers, and returning officers for your contribution and participation for our debate today. We hope that we have given good clarification to some of your doubts and questions. All in all, we have reached the end of our manifesto presentation. From all the things we have planned and stated, we are aiming for a closer community within SOE.
Students are always welcome to ask us more questions pertaining our plans and ideas that we have in mind in the following year. We are also open to changing our perspective and ideas depending on the situation and make it so that it suits those situations if anything arises. We hope that moving forward, we'll be able to accomplish this vision of ours and bring about a better community in both SOE and in Monash. That is all, everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Darylyn and Brian, for a wonderful debate session. This was the debate for the School of Engineering representative position. Having here today, we have our current OB, Su Wen and JQ. And our contesting candidates were Darylyn Lam and Brian Yi from Lideransia. Thank you guys for participating in today's debate and see you in next debate. Our next debate will be tomorrow at 1:45 p.m. That time it will be for the MUIS engagement role, where we will be looking at Faria Saraswati from Ignovitas. We also have a few platforms for any debate updates or any updates about the election, basically. We have the Discord server, we have the MUSA Instagram, and we also have the MUSA website, which is very well. It serves as a one-stop solution for anyone who wants to find any information. And our election guide has also been published yesterday. So do check it out to find out more about our candidates and their manifestos. With that, I think we can close on today's last debate of the night. Thank you for tuning in.